Carolyn Klaus, President of the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County. The mission of the League is to educate and motivate our community to engage in civic matters. This video was developed to help inform you and all Iowans about the voting process and the role of our county auditors. Our goal is for everyone to have a better understanding of the process and to increase ease with participation in the process. We hope this video gives assurance that you can have confidence in our elections.
I'm Rhonda Deters, the Grundy County Auditor and Commissioner of Elections. I will be going over information that voters need to use on Election Day. It's important for voters to know where they will go to vote on Election Day. This information can be found on a voter's acknowledgement card if it's available. This card is sent to a voter when he or she registers to vote. You may also find your polling location by accessing the Iowa Secretary of State's website at sos.iowa.gov. Under Elections, click on Voters. On the right side of the page is a link to find your precinct or polling place. You will need to type in your zip code and then your street address, and your polling location will then be shown. Or you may call your county auditor and they will be able to tell you the location of your polling place when you provide your residence address. Polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for most elections. In rare instances, the polls may open at noon, but polling hours close at 8 p.m. for all elections. The precinct election officials are chosen from registered voters within the county, and no more than a majority of officials may be from any one party. No more than 1/3 of the precinct election officials may be registered as no party. If a voter is registered, the process to check in at the polling location is quite simple. Pre-registered voters and voters updating their address are required to provide proof of identity before receiving and casting a regular ballot. Proof of identity may be any one of the following: an Iowa driver's license or Iowa non-operator ID, not expired more than 90 days, a non-expired U.S. passport or U.S. military ID or veteran ID, a signed Iowa voter identification card, or a signed, non-expired tribal ID card containing a photo. Voters changing precincts must also provide proof of residence if their proof of identity does not contain the voter's current address. Proof of residence may be shown on any one of the following: a residential lease, a utility bill including a cell phone bill, a bank statement, not a blank check, a paycheck, a government check or other government document, or a current property tax statement. A voter without one of these forms of ID may have his or her identity attested to by another registered voter in the precinct, or may prove identity and residence using Election Day registration documents, which we'll go over in a few minutes. A registered voter who resides in the same precinct as the voter may attest to the identity and residence of the voter as long as the attester has not been attested for anyone else and was not attested for him or herself. The attesting voter must present his or her own required form of identification. The voter being attested for must fill out a voter registration form and an oath swearing that the information is true. The attester must fill out an oath swearing the information the voter is providing is true and must present proof of identity. Voters with a change of address within the same residential precinct are not required to provide proof of residence unless they are also a pending voter. Proof of residence documents may be provided in an electronic format, such as on a cell phone. Temporary licenses or IDs issued by the Iowa Department of Transportation will be accepted as proof of identity and/or residency while the temporary ID is valid. Expired licenses accompanied by a valid DOT extension letter, online renewal document, or DOT kiosk receipt will also be accepted as proof of identity and/or residency. Voters may also register and vote on Election Day. Election Day registration voters are required to prove both who they are and where they live. The best form of identification is a valid Iowa driver's license with the voter's current address printed on it. The voter may also provide one of the following as proof of identity: an Iowa non-operator identification card, an out-of-state driver's license or non-operator identification card, a U.S. passport, a U.S. military ID, an employer-issued ID, student ID from an Iowa high school or college, or tribal identification card or other tribal enrollment document issued by a federally recognized Indian tribe or nation, if the card or document is signed before being presented. All forms of photo ID must be current, valid, and contain an expiration date. The expiration date must be the day the voter is registering or later, or list none as the expiration date. If the ID presented as proof of identity does not contain the voter's current address, any one of the following may be presented as proof of residency, as long as it contains the voter's name and current address: a residential lease, a property tax statement, a utility bill including a cell phone bill, a bank statement, not a blank check, a paycheck, or government check or other government document such as a vehicle registration or tax assessment. The precinct election official must inspect the proof of residence document to verify it shows the voter's name and current address and is dated or describes terms of residency to within 45 days prior to the presentation to the precinct election official. If a voter is unable to show ID or prove residence if required, and does not have anyone who can attest for him or her, the voter has the right to cast a provisional ballot on Election Day and bring proof of identity and residency to the polling place before 8 p.m., or bring such proof of identity and residency to the county auditor's office by noon on the Monday following the election. If the canvass will be held earlier than the Monday following the election, the identification documents must be provided before the canvass. Each person who casts a provisional ballot will receive a printed statement that contains the following information: the reason they are casting a provisional ballot, the documentation required to make the provisional ballot countable, and the right to contest the challenge. If a provisional voter brings in the required identification by the deadline to do so, his or her ballot will be counted. Finally, employers must allow employees 2 consecutive hours to vote on Election Day if they do not already have 2 consecutive hours off during the time the polls are open.